Never mind. We'll do it live. We'll do it. Hola, community. This is Alan Milikjanian, and we're here live at the Blender Conference 2022 in beautiful Amsterdam. Like I said, I am Alan Milikjanian, chief intern boy to Captain Disillusion. And you might be asking yourself, what qualifies someone like me to take a turn hosting this podcast? As someone with very little experience in the professional VFX industry, or not involved with the development of Blender in any way. Really, if you think about it, I only know everything I know about Blender through tutorials, video tutorials. And in a way, it made me think, as a YouTuber, as a content creator, video content is all I know. And YouTube tutorials are a kind of video content. So it sort of makes sense for me to be here and talk about this stuff. So I thought during my slot, I would cover the subject of making a living on creating video content around learning Blender, also known as Blender tutorials. So I am going to speak to a few people whose names you may or may not know in this world. For the first half hour, I wanted to sort of focus on the differences between long form and short form tutorial content and what it requires. So I have a few guests with me here today. To my left is the creative team behind Creative Shrimp, A.D. Burrows and Gleb Alexandrov. Say hi, guys.
Hi, guys.
Hi, guys.
It's nice to be with you here. And on the sort of opposite end of the format spectrum, we have Jan Den... I'll do this again. Jan van den Hemel, who is the genius behind the Blender Secrets book and series of videos. So the reason I kind of thought this would be a good match is because, in a way, you guys are mostly about like long-form, in-depth courses. Like if I want to just become a better person, a better artist, and know how to do something I didn't know how to do before, I turn to your in-depth courses. But when I need to remember the damn shortcut for like the skin modifier, how to make the thickness change on vertices, is it Alt-S? No. Is it Control-S? No, it's Control-A. This is the kind of quick tip I need from the Blender Secrets videos. So this is our round table, and I'm hogging the floor. I just want to first give you guys a chance to kind of introduce yourselves to people who may not have seen your content. Why don't we start with you?
Yeah, sure. I make 1 minute or less tutorials for Blender. And to be honest, I started doing that not because I know everything about Blender, but because I forget everything about Blender. So usually when I was working on a client project, instead of having to re-watch that 1 hour video, I would just make a little video for myself for later. Yeah, it kind of became popular on Instagram, and then I spun a book out of it, so I could quit client work. But it would be unfair for me not to mention that I've hired an editor since a while, and he's also very good. He's a Blender artist called Tushar. So
must be nice. Yeah. Having a team.
Yeah.
Awesome. And what about you guys?
Yeah, I'm Gleb Alexandrov. Together with A.D. Burrows, we create stuff for Creative Shrimp, tutorials that you have probably watched at some point. And personally, I also enjoy the shorter form content. I mean, watching tutorials when I really need to remember the hotkey, like Alan said. It's much more convenient to just get straight to the point than to try to find it amidst a very big and brooding sort of bigger tutorial. So that's I think what makes the shorter form videos much more entertaining, especially if you know what you want.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, that sounds like a pretty good sum up of where it is. Yeah, the difference between, we could. It's like, are we even capable of doing short film content? I don't really. It's hard to do. I think.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, because some of the things I make is short form. I mean, I don't really teach people anything. I just give them the impression that they learned something while kind of being entertained. But I'm always like worried about you want to be funny and upbeat and entertaining in a short situation, but you also want to have time to impart the information. And I personally worry that I kind of like do too much of the former because I'm worried to be about being too boring or whatever. So like somehow you strike that balance.
That's a challenge, and it's a very sweet of Gleb to say that the short videos are entertaining, but I think maybe the biggest challenge is that you have to really cut down on the voiceover. For example, if you're making a 1 minute video, you have maybe 8 sentences, and instead of saying, for example, like if for whole your life you've wanted to model a cube in Blender, then the button you should press is, instead of that you should just go press Shift A to make a cube.
Yeah, you have
But
you
it
have
makes
to
it
keep
a little bit less
straight to the
entertaining.
point and
Yeah.
concise, and then it's a matter of removing the pauses in between the individual words, like to make it even shorter, right? To remove all the clicking sounds that we produce all the time.
Clicking sounds.
The dreadful clicking sounds after drinking a lot of coffee, I guess, and all the jazz to just squeeze it in the time frame. Is it challenging for you?
Yeah, the audio is something I spend a lot of time on, and actually the writing as well. I think that's probably the main difference between making a 1 minute video and just an hour long or even 10-minute one. You really have to write it first, and I have to really sculpt the sentences to.
So you come up with a script first.
Yeah. So you do a lot of research, of course, to know how something works, and then you write it. I have like a little Google sheet. That with the sentences just long enough that I know that it will fit in 1 minute.
Right, I notice you're like choosing your words really carefully, so it's not just like the short way to say it, but it's the most like clear kind of.
Yeah, that's really a challenge sometimes. But and I noticed also you can get away with 10 sentences in 1 minute, but then there will be a lot of angry comments like "Slow down, I cannot follow. How do you pause this?"
And
I know 8 is like ideal.
Plus, for the majority of us here, English being a second language, it's like an additional layer of challenge. Like we talked before, and you guys kind of tag team that aspect of it, right? Because you say sometimes you like make corrections. To Gleb's,
but
like
funny enough, AD like composes much more elaborate sentences, which naturally makes the whole thing much longer in that sense. So English like, isn't
English
helping in that sense, right?
So it's got to be like,
and we have to trim it down.
Right. So it's a back and forth. It's an editorial process.
We take out my highfalutin language to lean into Americanisms, but you replace it pretty much with the guitar.
With guitar strumming.
That's how we extend our time where possible. I wanted to ask actually about the short form stuff. Is that something? How do you know when it's enough? You know what I mean? Like,
no, what do you mean?
So, for example, it's I suppose it's as Alan alluded to. It's good enough, I suppose, to have like a shortcut. Like this is where you'll find this thing. Yeah. But like the subject matter, it's and then to condense that down into like what is it like mostly a minute stuff?
Yeah, if you scroll down all the way to my first post on Instagram, it's 4 years ago, a little bit more than 4 years ago. It's like a 6 second long video. Wow. It's just I think it was how to select linked faces or something. And that was actually my original idea, is just to show like one tiny thing.
And you got a positive feedback right away.
Yeah,
right?
you start
After
to
posting
you start getting that endorphin rush from all those comments.
Right.
And then it just becomes more and more ambitious.
It is funny because the first video that I made, it was also a quick tip on YouTube. It was how to use proportional fall-off to make a twisted shape or something like that. And it also got some very positive comments, and I think that was really the starting point of what we do right now, of our YouTube mini business, let's say.
Yeah.
And we all kind of have to start from short form and build up. But I noticed, like, on that subject, like, you kind of serialize your stuff because you'll have quick tips, but then it seems like there's a through line. You'll be working on some model, and now I need to do this. Now I need to retopologize. Yeah,
that actually comes out of the way I find my topics, because I think that's maybe the biggest challenge both for long and short content, is just what is an interesting topic. You cannot just sit down and go, what am I going to make a tutorial about today? You should really have a project that you're really trying to finish. Like maybe you're trying to build a car or a robot or a house or something. And then you will really come across obstacles, real obstacles.
That is something that I also wanted to mention,
Yeah.
like how, and ask you, by the way, how do you choose the topics, the subjects for your quick tips? But that's what I think about it as well. Probably the best way to come up with the subjects, with the topics, is to start a project, even some kind of a mini project like a render or something. Then you naturally like stumble across the things that you would want to share. Yeah, because that involves a lot of problem solving, and that naturally translates into the tutorials, especially if you're interested in the shorter form tutorials.
Yeah, it's like, what if you needed to build a donut?
Exactly.
How do you go about
How do you go about that?
the complicated task of building a donut? Yes.
Yeah, that's then you also discover things that maybe nobody has made a tutorial about yet. So
About a donut, for example.
but I that's why sometimes I have like maybe 5 things that are like how to make a robot. At first, sculpting the base mesh, and then read the polygons and so on.
So
it's
is
also
that
fun.
robot something you're making for the purpose of making a series of tutorials, or is this like your side project that you're needing to do anyway?
Kind of both. When I started, the first 2 years of Blender Secrets, I was actually full-time working as a motion graphics freelancer. So fortunately for me, I didn't use VoiceOver yet at that time, and they were very short. So it's easy, like a half an hour before midnight. Oh, I still need to post my daily tutorial, and you can quickly slap something together for 6 seconds. But of course, those were very different kind of projects. Those were like explainer videos for healthcare, so animating viruses and stuff. And then as I got more revenue from Blender Secrets, I started focusing more just on stuff that I thought was fun.
But you still plan the shorter type content to then eventually make a bigger thing, like a book or
it's
maybe
kind
a
of
course at some point, right?
Yeah. I was working on a hard surface sculpting course for a long time now.
Yeah, that's
Hopefully
what I
that
would
will be-
suspect.
Hopefully that will be finished some year. But so naturally, a lot of little tips came out of that. And also, to be honest, sometimes I want to test a workflow by posting it online in a tip, because it can be a good tip, but maybe some comments say, actually, you can do that even better if you do this and this and this. And then, okay, I can put that in
And
my
you can be
course.
very agile.
Yeah.
Basically, by absorbing that feedback.
Exactly, yeah. It's much easier that way than if you just sit in a room for a year working on something without telling anybody about it. Like a big course, I imagine, would be like.
And then you eventually burn out.
And then,
Sorry.
because you don't get any feedback from...
And you mentioned
users.
dopamine, like a drug.
It's important.
It's really addictive, right?
Yeah.
When you start sharing content with people online, and you start getting feedback.
Yeah.
We
That's
all
how
know that
you get
feeling.
sucked in, and then
Yeah.
before you know it, you're on
Before you know it,
YouTube for
you're
15 years
a
doing the
Blenderer.
same damn
Yeah.
thing.
It's literally the opposite of being a motion graphics freelancer. Because
Yeah,
the only
exactly.
feedback you
Right.
get then is, can you move this pixel 5 pixels to the left?
Right.
Oh, no, actually, move it
Move
back.
it back.
But
a
make
little
it
bit,
red
about
now.
10%.
Can I ask about negative things that
Yeah,
you receive?
sure.
Do you receive anything
Um,
that shakes you to your core?
one time, somebody mentioned that my voice was disgusting.
Oh, really?
Very
I
harsh.
went with a
find
lot
it-
of annoying
quite
clicking
charming.
sounds and stuff. And
I find it very soothing. I think we're all a group of very soothing, soft-spoken people
Mm.
right now. So
That hate their voices.
that hate their voices.
I hate my
Yeah.
voice.
But everyone says that we sound good.
my
Maybe we
revenge,
should trust them.
My revenge was that I went out and spent more than €1,000 on microphones.
Wow.
That shows him.
There you go. There you go.
But
Uh,
your first tutorials were without voice,
yeah.
just like my tutorials. Yeah.
Yeah, I just
and-
did that for a year every day, and I thought it would just be way too much work to do sound. And then
Yeah, I
took
mean-
a little break, and then Ian Hubert made his lace tutorial, and I thought, wow, now I have to do
And he
voice as
set
well.
the standard, of course. I mean, I appreciate those kind of like wordless tutorials you find where it's like little text to music, but something in my heart just really hates that format. Like, come on, just talk to
Yeah.
me. This is a video, which is like, actually, I wanted to ask, what was your like motivation to specifically, you're compiling everything that you make ultimately in a PDF and an ebook, right?
Yep.
Like you find that you like learning that way and having that resource as well, just like as a.
Gosh, to be honest,
Old school.
I don't even remember why I did it that way. I
Just
think
to
it's just
kinda get
because at
going.
that time I didn't even have a microphone or anything. So I thought, wow, just the most easy way to do this is just to make a PDF.
Yeah, I mean, some people prefer learning that way. I remember my
Okay.
first early like CG efforts was in the days when like you still would get a book
A book,
at the
yeah,
bookstore
3ds
with
Max
like
book.
yeah,
You read
books this thick.
approximately 1/5 of it, right?
Right.
Actually, I
Yeah.
do remember now why I chose the PDF. I listened to a podcast, Art Cafe, with Andrew Price,
Mm.
and he talked about his first.
I heard of
His first product was
The wow factor.
something
exactly.
like that, or it was maybe even about how to make a.
It was a
car tire
PDF.
or something.
Yeah, wow,
Hmm.
fact.
And then I went to check on Blender Market, and I thought there really are not a lot of PDFs, so maybe something to try.
Yeah, it's good that that resource is out there. So shifting gears to the other side of things, long form, in depth, deeply researched, deeply like structured
Deeply
tutorials.
convoluted.
No. Let's be real. You guys like put a lot of effort into your courses, right? Like because it's one thing to keep a short tutorial snappy, but another thing to keep people's attention sustained through multiple lessons. Talk about that.
Yeah, and that's probably the hardest part of what we do, to just keep it not too convoluted, and at least just a little bit interesting, throughout, because that's probably isn't very enjoyable to watch a 10-hour course where that just isn't very interesting to begin with. You mentioned that your videos, your tutorials, and stuff like that are both entertaining and informational, and you're trying to strike the balance between these two qualities. That's, I think, what they call nowadays infotainment,
Yes.
the type of educational content that still strives to be entertaining at the same time. I think that is probably the hardest part of our job, aside from knowing your stuff and doing research and all that. What do you think?
Yeah. I think we're, excuse me. Yeah, we've got like a little bit of a help because we can alternate. So we can kind of have that slightly different energy and bounce off that a little bit. So just as maybe someone's getting tired of me, I can step in.
Yeah, and he's compiling huge lists of fixes all the time. I hate that. I have to go through all of that, But at the same time, it's a big help.
Other than that, like how else do you divide up the tasks in compiling the whole thing?
We start with drafting a Google Doc, as usual. That's how it starts.
Sometimes several.
Sometimes quite a few. Then we try to break it into sub-chapters, break these sub-chapters into even more granular type of divisions, to practically to determine how to split it in the best way, and just to become aware of the structure of this thing. Because when you try to design a video course, the natural tendency of this product is to become probably too big for you and to encompass everything, everywhere, all at once, and to make it unbearable and unthinkable to even try to make it. So, the first challenge I think that we face when creating the longer form content is to simply break it down into manageable chunks to make it possible for us to even start like tackling it in a meaningful way.
I think it happens on all creative projects probably. For example, in game dev, you get that feature creep.
Right.
You get that idea of, this brand new thing's just occurred to me. Let's somehow squeeze that in.
Right.
And it's obviously not always the right idea to stay with the current trends.
And it's not very easy to narrow it down to a certain subject even. For example, if you start making course about space, like space VFX or something, like what is it really about? Is it about materials? Is it about procedural stuff? Or it's very hard to kind of modularize it and to set the right scope for it. It always haunts me.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, having done several long lessons, like, do you get a feel for, like, whether the overall topic is going to be, like, fruitful ground to, like, cover all the things you want to cover? Like, do you get a sense, oh, this is going to be difficult to wrangle, or this is going to be exactly the right thing?
Yeah, I think we have some understanding before we even start working on it, but it's more like intuition, than like a set of concrete like rules and whatever. We have a very how do you put it? A very imaginative style of coming up with ideas, and then we try to just sort it into categories and do the research, and only then it actually becomes something like a script for us. So before we do this homework, it's still, I would say, pretty hard to understand whether it will be a real deal or whether it will be like an impossible project to make.
Is it? Sorry, go ahead. You had something to add to that?
Well, I was going to say there are several chapters that do get started and then get abandoned.
Oh, really? So you've had like a whole sort of lesson project that you give up on or rework?
Yeah, I can't think of an entire, say, maybe on the development side, just before we've really started to get up the Google Doc, break out the Google Docs. But yeah, there's just some standalone things I've found that we've more or less dropped like halfway through sometimes.
And that's precisely because we discover that something else would be more fruitful or easier to make, or just make more sense to do.
Is it tough to manage a large project like that from different countries, long distance, or do you think that helps? Do you think you'd like be at each other's throat if you were working at the same office or something?
I really don't mind one way or the other. I don't know what you would say, to be honest, because I think I criticize your work more than you seem to criticize mine.
But it's a fairly mild critique, you know. I'm not even bothered with that most of the time. Yeah, but I don't see any problem, you know, working basically in this manner. Maybe because we have established that kind of understanding of how each one of us treats educational material and how we work and what is important to each one of us. So that's probably what makes it very easy to accept critique and just work together.
Sometimes we will get online and we will talk about something, but the majority of the communication is via like a text. And that is delicate anyway, because...
Right, you really think about what you're going to say instead of just blurting it out.
Yeah, tone of voice, body language, that matters a lot. And so when you're criticizing someone and it's just text, I think probably it looks harsh when really you're kind of saying, oh, maybe that could be a little bit better, or it comes across as, you know, maybe you know, you could do that a lot better, you know, as in it, maybe it sounds more somber or so it's like a deeper attack than it really is.
Right.
And it's just, no, I just literally, and so we pepper in, this is really good. This is, you know, you don't just focus on the negatives.
Got to throw in some compliments in there.
Yeah, soften it.
Now, when I was getting into Blender, it took me a few tries. And when I finally kind of adapted it into my workflow a little bit, it was right at the end of 2.79 life. And all of a sudden, everything changed. And I'm too slow and too set in my ways to kind of relearn everything from scratch. So this is an issue. And how do you... it's probably not so much an issue for you. Like, things get updated, you do new tips, you rework. But probably for you, it's an issue because your whole course is based on how to do something that has now changed. The button where it is has changed.
Exactly. Probably the best way to deal with it is to make the evergreen courses like formal composition and some theory of lighting and stuff like that you even won't have to update because it's like this eternal topic. But yeah, it is a huge problem for tutorial makers. Pretty much, I think, for anyone creating courses and stuff, is that then the next version of Blender comes out and you have to just rework stuff. But that's inevitable. That's how things work.
I think
Yeah.
even for you, I've seen
It's
you-
actually a lot of work for me.
Yeah,
to,
we are
update the book.
pretty bad
Oh,
at
right.
updating our stuff. We should do more, I think.
I have some days per week set aside for updating the book. Actually, when 2.8 came out, at some point I just had to rewrite the whole book
Way.
because all the screenshots were also suddenly of an old interface.
Is it still selling
Right.
your book?
Yeah, it's selling quite well.
Quite well.
Yeah. That's,
No, give us
that's
the
only
exact
thing,
numbers.
Yeah, give us the numbers.
That's the only
You're on the
thing I
podcast
do
after
now.
all.
So yeah.
Awesome.
And actually now I've taken 3 months sort of off from Blender Secrets to work on a video course, which I was already working on for a long
Mhm.
time, but I thought
Secretly.
it wasn't going anywhere, so I thought, okay, I'm just going to crunch on this for 3 months.
Is that what you would classify as being more long form then? In that
Yeah.
case? Yeah.
And I've just been reposting for the most part, old videos, and still the book sells very well. So I'm very lucky.
So basically, you
I thought it would just go
represent two
Yeah,
sides.
you're getting in on
Yeah.
their territory,
Yeah.
and I don't need
Yeah,
this kind of
basically.
conflict on my podcast. Look, this fighting has to stop. I have to stop. In fact, I need to wrap this up with you guys because this is going to get out of hand. It's going to become a physical altercation. But before we go, and we're going to switch to our next couple of guests, I know you guys are like, "Where's Polyfjord? What's happening? I was promised Polyfjord." He's coming in a second, all right? But before we go, I just want to do a quick rapid fire with you guys of like Blender rapid fire challenge. Just a couple of quick questions I tend to be curious about. So, I guess take turns answering as fast as you can. Like, so if you're having to add haze or fog in a scene, your first go-to choices in camera, like a cube with volumetric or a compositor trick.
Just a cube with volumetric.
Okay, simple.
From
You?
the, from the asset browser.
There you
drag
go.
it.
Yeah, the most efficient way.
I would go with alpha mapped planes with transparent texture and a mix of shader, something like that.
Yeah,
80,
say
anything
basically
else?
exactly the same thing.
Oh, you guys are on the same page at all
Yeah.
times. Okay. You're modeling, and suddenly you need to switch to shading something. Do you pull out a window and like switch that to the node editor, or do you just toggle to the shading workspace?
Yeah, I do it the old-fashioned way. I just change the timeline to a shader. editor.
Yeah, of course. Pull up. It's Control F3, Shift F3 4 times. That's
Shift
the greatest
F3,
shortcut.
until you arrive at the
Yes,
top
until
that
you
you
arrive,
want
and you
to,
never
yeah.
quite know which one it is, but I believe it's the 4th time. Okay, you do the same. You don't do the
The
shader.
the same for me.
Why-
Only hardcore.
Shader workspace.
I mean, right? It's a click. I know I don't have that intuition. I want to do the old thing, but it's a click. It's technically more economical. We all got to just change our ways and do the shader.
But it's
work.
more satisfying to do it this way.
It's more satisfying. It makes you feel cool. Yeah, sometimes, I'll even pull out a new window from the left instead of adapting the timeline. Because what if I need to scrub through the timeline? All right, last question. As fast as you can, list all your quick favorites menu.
Mainly sculpting ones. So scrape brush, smooth brush, mesh filter. Those the ones that I use most for sculpting. Not really any quick favorites for other stuff.
Okay.
I don't have quick favorites.
You don't use quick.
I don't have.
What kind of
I don't have it.
what kind of monster are you? How does that you just don't find you need anything
Yeah.
in that respect? Because it's just you're setting your waist from
Yeah,
before
yeah.
that was a thing.
I feel
That's what it
I
is.
feel complete.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
a bit similar, but I do have some of the stuff in there when I'm using it on the laptop. So because I've not got a numpad.
Right, the
So-
numpad. How do people even do this? It doesn't work. The
That's why you
emulation
need
thing.
quick favorites.
Yeah.
So I kind of use a little bit of navigation, and also that bit where it's the display, the viewport display, where you can tell it to just show us bounds or that kind of stuff.
Right.
There's a whole panel of that sort of stuff that I sometimes dump into the quick favorites.
For me, I don't know why, but I always need to have the normal facing display, the red and blue
Really?
in my. I don't know why. My brain needs to see it. I know I can sort of assume that I can just, reset the normals and it's going to be
Yeah.
right, but I need to see it. So I have quick favorites even in edit mode and in object mode to see the.
Well, at some point, I had one button in there, and it was going full screen.
uh,
in quick favorites. Yeah.
Coming from a gaming backgrounds, it's like the back face culling is one of that I actually do put in that quick favorites. So I know what you mean. So
there
rather
we
than the
go.
red and blue, it's back face cull.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for.
Thank you so much
doing
for
this
having
first
us.
half.
Thank you.
Get out of here. Enjoy the
Yeah.
conference, and we're going to swap out some new guests. I really
you so much.
appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you.
And you guys can find in the description everyone's socials and follow these guys' content. We're gonna low-tech switch here in a bit. So go for it, you guys. Join wherever you'd like. All right. Oh yeah. Feel free to stick around. If you like. This is much more interesting than all these smart panels of people who know what they're doing. We have a beautiful wide shot slimming podcast here talking about things I barely know. Okay, so now switching gears a little bit, but still staying on theme of creating video content around Blender, learning about Blender, teaching about Blender. I want to get more into the actual, making a living, particularly on YouTube, and kind of achieving a level of visibility, maybe kind of getting some viral success. So I wanted to talk to two folks that who, in my mind, kind of have a similar style, similar congenial personality, that same vibe, and an obsession with pipelines and workflows and getting color to work right. So we have, you guys probably, I know everybody knows at least one video by this guy, Polyfjord. And I'm sorry, your actual name is?
Asbjørn.
Asbjørn.
Yeah,
Asbjørn is
perfect.
here with us of Polyfjord, making real fascinating little quick tutorials on just the right kind of little subject you never thought you wanted to know about. How to do in Blender. And we have your company is called Inlight VFX, right? Jacob
That's right.
Holiday
Yep.
is with us. Yeah, there's something about, I don't mean to compare you guys, but something about your vibe strikes me similar. I don't know, do you guys, are you aware of each other's channels? Do you kind of play off each other's energy a little bit, or is anyone inspired?
I think your intro is great. Similar styles, but vastly different levels of success. So...
Well, yeah, that's. I wanted to get into it because in a way, I feel maybe you guys are on the same road in different spots. So you, first of all, I mean, on some level, we all have to kind of hate this guy, secretly, because I don't think any Blender tutorial or any kind of thing has had this much views. You have a 25 million view. The tentacle tutorial has 25 million views or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Tell us about that, and how did that even happen?
I think your voice is really smooth, by the way.
Oh, God, thank you.
I think it's actually a little bit of a misunderstanding that has anything to do with Blender. It feels quite. It feels like the first couple of 100,000 views, I think, was from the Blender community, which was amazing. And then the watch time just went straight to the floor, and the retention just skipped right to the cinematics. So everyone is just oh, I see a thumbnail, I go to the cinematics. So the average watch time of that video is 40 seconds or something. So, to speak about I also thought this was really weird to get so many views on a tutorial, because it seems to be some sort of format that I think that there is some sort of information that is being told when a cinematic is presented at the end of an educational piece of content. If just the cinematic was posted, hey guys, look at this cinematic I made, then I think the reception would be completely different.
Right.
Or at least we'll never know, but that's my...
Well, you can't, it's sometimes that might work against someone. If I know, if I'm teased something and I start watching the thing and the person's being real long-winded about what I'm going to end up with, and I have to suffer through it to see it, I can get annoyed. But you trick people into it, because everything you're showing the whole way through is you can't hate on it. It's oh yeah, I do want to know how to do that. Oh, that seems very efficient. And you kind of breadcrumbs. You lead people all the way to the end product that all of a sudden makes sense, and then you reward them with the cinematic. That seems like a good approach.
Yeah, I do actually think I have a workflow that is nice to sort of prevent the viewers getting impatient. If that's what you're getting at, that you're sort of always feeling that, and that is the trick, is to just have really low blood sugar at the end of the day, and then you watch through the edit and you go like, why is this in the edit? And then you just delete it, you know. And yeah, that's at least my strategy, to just keep editing. I think we share some background there. I feel like you have an editor background, like yeah. So I think we're both very picky at yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of rely on the most minimal on-screen presence. Like people assume that I can like host a podcast, for example, off the cuff, because it just I try to like have some sort of energy and spontaneity feeling in my videos, but it's all like carefully crafted, and like I can only get away with like this many seconds of saying something on screen, and it probably took me 20 takes, and then the rest is just chopped up voiceover that's made out of like little words strung together. Do you kind of do either of you find it like that you're having to craft your performance in a tutorial? You seem like very natural and just congenial in the way you host your thing.
Well, I was gonna say I script out the full video, and it's embarrassing because I started a Patreon where I put minimal effort into the same sort of tutorials, like extending the ideas, and it's so long-winded, and you know, I seem like a totally different person. So yeah, I kind of get that idea of like, yeah, scripting something out is totally different than just. But you're a fantastic host, by the way.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, I agree.
Great job.
We're staying afloat. That's what's important. This is continuing going. So I noticed that like you guys both have a sort of like kink for like workflows and pipelines and how to keep the color, you know, consistent, like the whole thing. Your EXR like revelation, I feel like that kind of like made a ripple effect also through the community, just realizing like, why are we using pings, PNGs? Like it makes so much more sense to just use compressed EXRs, single layer EXRs. They take less space. How did you arrive at that? You just experimented?
Yeah, I think it must have been some forum somewhere that I read about the compression. But yeah, I always thought, like just like everyone else, that EXR were reserved for these complex multi-layer workflows that where you hate your life before you render and then you hate your life after render as well. But why not just move all the hate to before the render, so you can
Right.
I don't know.
One time I rendered some kind of a thing for an episode that was a multi-layer XR, and it was like a oversized high-res thing that I could like reframe, and it was silly. Like it wasn't something that necessitated in retrospect, but I used like a rendering service, and it was so overwhelming. They stopped the render and they called me. They said they wrote me, said like, it doesn't work. We can't like do it this way. Can you just render it some other way? So like multi-layer EXRs can really mess you up. But yeah, you just got to be clever with it. The most recent tutorial I glanced on your channel is with the whole color workflow. How did you? It seems like everybody understands all this color process, but me. Like I watch the tutorials, and it's like there are so many things I gotta install, and I gotta get this guy's thing to be in the Blender profiles. Like, how did you investigate all this and figure it out for yourself? You worked with some like high-profile filmmakers and things, and in the industry. So is that what helped you figure some of these things out?
Yeah, I mean, so I kind of did a deep dive into ACEs, I think last year or maybe the year before that. It's funny that I don't know, because that just tells you how often I upload videos. Yeah, it was a lot of research and talking to different people in the visual effects industry. But anyone who says that they understand color science and all that is lying to you, because there's never a way to have a full like no one's brain, I think, is big enough to fit all the concepts at once. Like you learn one thing and you're losing the first thing that you researched.
And then there's some update happens, whether in Blender or in other areas with the whole color workflow, and you got to relearn everything and adapt, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, I spent probably 2 months, like a month, researching that, and really kind of what I try to do is drive down to the root of a concept and go even deeper than that, and then come back up to the surface and say, okay, how can I distill this in a way that is easy to understand, and not too detailed, but also not glossing over any foundational concepts that are really necessary to understand the concept. So it's about abstracting the ideas just enough where it's, you know, a video that people can follow.
Makes
and
sense.
get something out of. Yeah.
So like, again, turning to you with like unusual like jumps in success here and there with the visibility of your tutorials. Like, do you think, is that something you consciously chased? Like, do you were talking earlier about like, the views might be huge, but the watch time is, you know, all the insider YouTuber kind of things. Is that something you keep track of? Is that something you're cognizant of when you're making your stuff?
Yes, I think so. It might actually be too much of a focus sometimes. I actually I do have a master's degree in entrepreneurship, which I finished 1.5 years ago, and I wrote my thesis on how YouTubers' choice of revenue streams affect the content that they create, like creative freedom and the balance between what do you sort of do to keep the money going in and without feeling like you sell out. I didn't end up writing a really good thesis, but I learned a lot, and I got to speak with some YouTubers. Fortunately, I cannot tell who they are because anyways. But what it was really cool, it gave me this focus to just try and focus on this playing the game of YouTube, because it's like a game. So I sort of started playing the game before I had found myself, I think. Yeah. What I'm trying to say is that I wish I'd focused more on the tutorials and less on the algorithm and the stuff.
I mean, from just observing your channel as an audience, I don't feel like there's like a lack or it's too much in one direction or the other. I think like I never saw, or I haven't, just kind of looking through the history of your videos, I don't see like a shift. Like all of a sudden you're like taking it easy and like being superficial just to make things more viral. I think you keep an even tone. So don't be too hard on yourself. I think, yeah. But I mean, do you have any advice for people who maybe like want to get shore up the views while still feeling like they're providing valuable information, that their tutorials are not just flashy and they're trying to be randomly funny in random moments for no reason, just to keep the energy up? Like, what's your advice?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think a good advice is that a good video will always sort of win in the end. If it looks like because I really respect the craft of making a good edited video, regardless of format, if it's a tutorial or if it's a short film or anything. I just think if you can really focus on that, then that should be a really good starting point. But one thing that I want to say about going viral is that for me it was super like draining mentally. After the robotic arms video, it just I was up here, you know. I walked around in my living room, I looked at my screen and it said 10 million views, and I refreshed and it was 10.1, and it was I have a screenshot on my phone for 148-hour period where it says 10 million views on the first. Yeah, it was absolutely, but
mind-blowing.
Yeah, but the point is that was such a high because I've been chasing this since I wrote my master thesis, and I've been sort of trying to figure this out. But when that sort of landed, that was really difficult. I actually really struggled with that for probably 2 or 3 months. Just really didn't find any joy in uploading any videos.
Yeah, I mean, and I hope this doesn't sound to like viewers like, oh God, good, yeah, nice problem to have. Like you have 20, but it's true in the sense that like, yeah, no matter in any context in life, like you get a big reward, a big sort of like, you know, a success, like you just nail something, and then there's nowhere to go but down. Like you can't help, you can know intellectually that like, it's fine, you know, it just happened, you know, you get lucky sometimes, you get a lot of views, and the next one's probably not going to be that big, but your brain can't help but feel weird about the fact that I probably can't top this, so why even try? Like, I just don't want to touch the next thing. I mean, maybe not in terms of views, but I get that feeling just with making a video And if people like it and they compliment it a lot, I just feel like, well, I really need to think hard about what the next thing will be, because it needs to fit in this gallery of stuff I've already made. And what if the next one just doesn't fit at all? What if it feels like a much lower effort, even if I put a lot of effort into it? So it can be kind of like, it kind of freezes you up, right?
Yeah.
I think the hedonic treadmill is a real thing, you know, where you're aiming for something, you get there, and then it becomes normal, and you're looking for something else.
Yeah, you need it to keep coming. You need even more views. It's I kind of, you know, you get to feel that with subscribers. Like I kind of feel like, I mean, not to like insert myself into this discussion too much, but like I feel like I'm sort of old timer, where like my YouTube thing, like the position of my channel has more to do with like when I got on YouTube as much as like what I make. Because I think like if I started my channel now, I don't think all the moves I made or stuff I created would necessarily lead to the same place, the same number of subscribers, the same views. It's always changing. So it's like, if people ask you what is, you know, how did you do the thing that you did? I want to follow in your footsteps. It doesn't always work. Like it just changes. And plus it changes from genre to genre. If we were all vloggers, maybe we could like be a little bit more in control of our of our YouTube success. But is that something like, as someone who's like climbing in the views and is still on the road to like really breaking out, perhaps with your channel, is that something like him that you're cognizant of and you do pursue, or are you just like laid back about it and you just want to make good stuff and views don't matter?
I mean, I would love it's tough because the views are what expose, you know, that's the metric of people being exposed to your work, and you never know, you know, it's like playing the lottery. The more you can roll the dice, then you might reach that one person who can lead to some really cool project and reach out to you. Yeah, but for me, it's just like my tutorials come from right after I learn something that really interests me, and I'm really passionate about it, and so that's kind of the energy that I wait for. So if there's not something on the horizon or that I'm currently working on that is really exciting me, then that's why sometimes I have a year between videos. And so I have other things in the background that fill the time.
You do like freelance work and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, freelance work. You know, most of this stuff isn't public. So, but I was gonna flip this on you if that's okay.
Sure.
Because I think you're way more interesting.
It's not true.
How do you, and also you, how do we like measure the success of in terms of the success that our videos have in actually teaching people? Because views seem like you were mentioning, views can represent someone who's just watched a portion of the video that's not actually teaching. Is there a way that you guys kind of get feedback or can judge whether you're actually teaching things in an effective way?
Well, just to get me out of the way, like I said in the previous segment, I feel like I'm genuinely like a poser in that space, because I don't think I'm ever really making tutorials. I kind of, on my Patreon, like I've attempted to actual tutorials as a sort of a thing I do. And even that, like, I look back on them and it's like, I feel like everything I said, most people who would watch my tutorial, they already know. So it's like this strange thing, like, you know your audience and you have to up your game to be like, basically I have to learn something new in order to teach something new. So, but on my normal videos, I don't really deal with that issue where you're asking, because I'm kind of like giving you an impression of learning something, but it's really about entertainment and like, isn't that interesting how they faked that? Or did you know that that's fake? The end. And then if I got something wrong, if I got some vital piece of information kind of like wrong, specifically like that UFO video is not real, but the way that I explained they did it is not like how they actually ended up doing it. Well, the UFO is still fake. So you're kind of like wrong in detail, but still correct in the overall thing. But that doesn't really work in the space of tutorials and telling people what button to click. Like either it works or it doesn't. So I'm going to let you handle that side of it.
I think it's such a good question about what is success, you know, what you're asking, like, how does it feel like? And I think the biggest problem for me is that everyone comes up to me, at least at this conference and in this podcast, they come up to me and they say, congratulations on the robotic arms video. It's a major success. And but that does not feel like the success. That feels like a lottery ticket that I picked up and
Right.
delivered, and I owe very little of my attention to the work that went into that video, but somehow the result is getting my attention, which feels weird. But
Right.
the one video that I feel was the most successful for me is an older one with a crystal bird or something. I filmed something in Angedalen in Norway, where I went up with my drone and it was like minus 13 Celsius.
Wow.
And I filmed a lot, and I spent so much time making some music for it as well. And I wanted to make it into a time lapse, and I did. And no one is watching that video. I'm talking about it, so hopefully people will. No, just kidding. But it's so weird to just experience how people congratulate you for success that you don't feel is the success. You know.
Right. But you surely, like, I mean, you have the one like disproportionate success, but it must spill over a little bit into the adjacent videos, and you do get some exposure. So people, maybe, you know, many of the views that the one video gets, people realize it's not their cup of tea, but many will, and so it's gotta propagate to the channel anyway. You probably do you feel like you got a useful audience out of the one success for the rest of your content?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's also a really good experience to just go like thoroughly viral, if you could say it like that.
Right.
For example, one example I have that is from Reddit is that a few years ago I made this like a walking smoke simulation animation. Just like I call it like the smoke dude or something, and posted it to Reddit, and I also posted it to Instagram, and it went really viral. And for 3 months, and this is not an exaggeration, for 3 months I got a job opportunity every single day, at least one. So like over 100 over 90 days, which every single day there was a new job offer in my inbox, and I got super stoked, and I just I signed so many NDAs of large corporations who just showed up. But what they do, and this is the specific advice I have for people if they should ever go viral, large corporations will approach you and they will tell you, hey, can you sign this NDA? We want to work with you on this thing. And then they will just disappear, because that's like a super power move, because now you're like, what can you do? Should you just discontinue making that specific style? I mean, I haven't made a smoke animation in a really long time because I'm super scared of this.
Oh, wait, so you mean like the NDA just makes you more cautious, and you're like, I don't know what, also because it involves things that you are making?
Yeah, they like, large corporations contacted me and they were like, we're going to make this thing. Do you want to be on board? And you have to sign this before we can let you know more. And then they disappear. And then I don't know what happens then.
Yeah. So it's like you're in a way, it might be like a tactic to just kind of like keep you down to yeah. Like
it sort of feels like
weird.
they have some ownership of what I made now.
Right.
Yeah, which is
That's
disgusting
crazy.
and horrible. So don't sign anything unless you're on board, you know. Or I'm not sure how you can define that, but
unless it's it feels like a viable opportunity.
yeah.
Like unless you've discussed a little more detail with the company, it's like what would be your involvement and what are the terms, and is there any prospect? That's really good advice. I had no idea about that side of it. That's fascinating.
It's a dark side, I guess.
Did you get job offers from this last one?
The robotic arms.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a few. I have done 2 brand deals since on YouTube, which is basically sprung out from that one. So that's probably a good answer to the question you had about what's the sort of consequence of that success or the viralness. It's definitely some concrete opportunities in terms of sponsorships, which is nice. And I can also just say, hey, I made this video, you want to sponsor me? And most companies are like, yeah, that's interesting.
Right. And you get the emails. You got to find those emails among all the emails where it's like, hey, I represent this whatever aggregation like company. Yeah, we'll just like it's sort of like feels, not to be harsh, but like parasitic. There's all these like offers that's like companies that just want to use your content to like prop up their own platform or whatever it is, or be an agency, like some kind of agencies for creators and things like that. And in between those emails, you get the actual brand deal offers, right? It becomes like your own. You gotta like start curating your own communications through all that. I'm sure a viral hit like brings a ton of that, and you gotta wade through.
Do you feel any pressure after that video to kind of recreate that same style, or because in my head I would feel like I had to, that worked so well. Now I should use a lot of these elements and kind of be constrained to that going forward, or do you feel the same creative freedom that you felt before that video?
Yeah, 100%. It's or the first thing that you said about to try and sort of recreate it. The video I made right after the robotic arms was about some string simulation, and you might notice that it's very similar to sort of the weapon of Doctor Strange.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, Doctor Strange with the magic stuff. You know, I was super planning on it for like a month to make like that should be the next topic. But then like a couple of weeks before, I can't do it. I have to just make it something weird. And then it just ended up being like not super useful tutorial, because it's like the technique in that video is not going anywhere. You're like, okay, so I can make this random thing. And there is this short animation of some guy making similar stuff. But the idea was to sort of make a series of tutorials where you're like recreating these really successful Marvel special effects or visual effects, but simplified and made possible using open source software. And there's a whole, I think you could make a whole YouTube channel just based on that simple premise, making let's say you make the shields of Doctor Strange, you make lightning for Thor's hammer, and every thumbnail is lined up with 2 weeks after the release of a major movie. You'd make a really big channel out of that, I think.
Take notes, everybody.
Yeah.
Feel the idea before we get off this podcast.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. So just to round things out, like do you guys have any specific future plans to take any slight different direction in your channels, or particular ideas for tutorials that are coming up? Either one.
I was thinking it could be cool to make a full course that is completely free, but if you liked it, you pay for it, But I'm not sure how that works and if it works, and I haven't started planning it. So, yeah, perhaps I'll have a look around asking some of the course people on the conference if there's, I'm not
this
sure.
is the place to confer about that. Anything unusual? Anything course changes for you in your channel and your work?
Yeah, actually similar. Making a course, I invest so much time, like a month into each tutorial, so it'd be nice to put that into a course that people can pay for and feel like they really invest in. Because it's interesting when I've paid for courses, like hundreds of dollars for courses. It's like that anchoring effect where you set someone's expectations with a certain price, and you just, I don't know, you go into it feeling different. Hopefully the quality matches too, so that would be my aim.
Yeah, there's something strange on some platforms, without naming names, of educational kind of like lesson platforms where you get this, I don't know what drives that, but it's like they have to fill a quota of the amount of lessons or something, and you just feel like, I know I'm getting something useful, but it's buried in 3 key videos in a 17 video series. And it's like, why is that happening? Make every video like rise in intensity and informational saturation. So I hope that when you guys undertake your long form courses, you keep that in mind and keep them interesting.
What about for you? What's anything exciting?
God, don't ask me. Look, I've been doing the same thing on YouTube for 15 years. I don't know what I'm doing. Every time I complete a video, I have no idea what the next video is going to be. And I don't want to talk about it, and it makes me sad. Let's just play it by ear, everybody. Don't get too hung up on viral success and hacking the system, hacking the algorithm. Just like go with your gut. Foreign language, sorry. Your audience will find you for the most part. They may not, but most likely they'll find you. So just like stay true to yourself. That's my main advice. Before we sign off, because we have 1 minute left, rapid fire for you guys, like I did for the previous guests. Real quick, your choice of in-camera fog. I mean, doing the fog in a scene. Do you do in-camera volume cubes, or do you do post some kind of tricks with compositor nodes?
This is both. I would, for VFX, render the fog with EV, and then add some, break it up in compositing a little bit with the noise texture.
I would do fog. I think volumetrics.
Volumetrics. You're very like cycles.
I just like to punish my GPU on a daily basis.
Good. And you know where your computer stands. That's good. All right. So again, modeling something, you got to switch at a certain point. There's no way to model something all the way through without starting to shade parts of it. So do you pull out a window? Do you do the old school flipping something to a node editor, or do you just click the one button to the shader tab?
To switch between objects and editing?
No. To switch between modeling and shading.
Oh, yeah. I'm always opening windows in the same
Opening
tab.
in the same. Okay. You?
Yeah. No, I'm the hotkey. I just type Shift F3 4 times. Isn't that the norm?
Yeah.
Or-
Well, yeah, but like, in a new window. But you don't use the actual pre-made shader workspace?
Oh no, I never.
No.
I thought it would be cool to make a tutorial where you sort of do all the steps, because Blender is
Right.
designed that way, you know.
Right. Yeah.
you could
Exactly.
start at
Like
the
do the
beginning.
journey. That would be
Yeah.
great. I mean, I have yet to meet a
True.
person, I guess, that does use the tab. Use the tabs, people.
Do you use it?
I you know what? 50-50. This is why I'm fascinated by it, because it's like Jekyll and Hyde situation. Sometimes I'm in a mood where my go-to thing is to press that button, but then I do get that weird. I think when I'm really in a hurry, strangely, I will choose the long way of pulling a window and changing it. But when I'm thinking about what I'm doing, I'm pressing the sensible tab button. So it's very counterintuitive.
Maybe Blender needs like smart suggestions, like the little
Big
paper
tips.
clip
Yeah.
that comes in and says, you look like you're doing this inefficiently
Yeah.
and you should really switch to this tab.
You opened a window. Did you really need to do that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And finally, your quick favorites menu. What's on yours?
Oh, I don't.
You don't use
I've
it.
never used it.
I didn't think so few people use quick favorites. You?
I think I don't have any, but the one shortcut I set is set origin to 3D cursor, because I'm doing that all the time
That's
for
the
some reason.
Wait, what is it?
like
Shift
Alt,
S and then
Shift C.
this way.
What do you use?
At the
Alt Shift Control C. it's
Oh,
it's kind of like a crazy hand movement. Yeah, like my hand. Yeah, it's weird.
All right. We've all got our idiosyncrasy. Sorry, you had something to add on that?
No, I
side?
just
okay.
sort of in Norwegian, the key Alt, it just means everything, like Alt. So when I was little, I thought it was the same as pressing every button on the keyboard.
Oh my gosh, that'd be crazy.
fascinating.
Yeah, that's the ultimate hotkey, I think.
Yeah,
The ultimate.
what would happen?
You get the next one
It's
version of Blender.
Yeah, you need
You just create a movie in one click.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
All right, we should end this.
It sounds like it's about time to end. All right, so here we're at the top of the hour. Thanks everybody for listening and watching. I hope you enjoyed it. The next stream is coming up at some point later in the day, and it will be someone else. So thanks again, everybody. Take care. Bye. And the stream has ended. No, it has not ended. Goodbye for real.